Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y analysis video. Today's video is all about Trevenant, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Trevenant is a Ghost Grass type Pokemon introduced into Generation 6, and one of two Pokemon that possess this unique typing, the other of which being Gorgeist, which was also released this generation. But as for its abilities, the first one that it gets is known as Natural Cure, which is a great ability that allows Trevenant to heal its status upon switching out. And this can even be used to your advantage if you want to make use of the move Rest, as you will recover your entire HP bar and then also be able to switch out, which will then cure your sleep status, which is pretty cool. But as for its next ability, it is known as Frisk, which is a good ability that allows you to see your opponent's item when you switch Trevenant into battle, which can be useful for gaining some information on what kind of sets your opponent is running. And then Trevenant's last ability, which is its hidden ability, is known as Harvest, which is a fantastic ability that allows Trevenant to potentially continuously harvest a berry after it's been consumed, which can be done through a number of different ways, such as using a Lumberry to always be able to cure your status, and obviously you can harvest a Lumberry to then obviously get rid of another status that Trevenant may be afflicted with. You could use this with a Citrus Berry to constantly regain HP, or you can even use it with a berry that will boost your attack or something to that effect, such as a Lychee Berry, which can continuously boost your attack on Trevenant through the use of the Harvest ability, which is pretty cool. But as for its stats, the first thing to make note of Trevenant are its pretty great defenses, being base 85 HP, 76 defense, and 82 special defense, meaning that this Pokemon is definitely a Pokemon capable of taking hits. Also, being a Ghost type, it does have access to the move Will-O-Wisp, and being a Grass type, it does have access to the move Leech Seed, which is really awesome for allowing this Pokemon to run defensive sets very effectively. But as for its attacking stats, it has base 110 physical attack, which is really great, allowing this Pokemon to do some fantastic damage with all of its physical attacking moves. But unfortunately, it only has a base 65 special attack, which isn't going to really allow this Pokemon to do any significant damage from the special attacking side. And lastly, Trevenant does have a base 56 speed, which is fairly slow, so that is something to keep in mind when using this Pokemon, as it will be fairly slow compared to many other opponents you will be up against. So the first set in this video that I'm going to be showing you all is my personal favorite set for Trevenant that I've come up with. So we're going to start off this set by giving Trevenant a Careful Nature to increase its special defense and lower its special attack, and for the ability we're going to be going with Harvest. As for the EVs, we're going to put 212 into its HP, 252 into its special defense to max that out, and then the remainder 44 EVs into its speed to give Trevenant enough speed to outspeed Pokemon of base 60 speed or lower that don't have any speed investment. But it is also important to note that at level 50, you're going to want to swap out for those HP EVs for speed to make sure that Trevenant has an even HP number, which is essential for one of the moves on this set. But for the item, we are going to be going with a Citrus Berry, which will be recovering Trevenant's health by 25% every time it hits to at least 50% of its health or less, and this is obviously going to be working in combination with the Harvest ability to potentially continuously harvest citrus berries to allow you to then regain health very easily with this Trevenant. But for the first two moves on the set, these two are meant to work in combination with each other, the first being Protect, which really needs no explanation, but Curse on Trevenant is possibly one of the coolest things in the world that this Pokemon can do, and that any Pokemon can do for that matter. For those of you that don't know, Curse on a Ghost-type Pokemon works very differently than on another type of Pokemon, as it will sacrifice 50% of your health in order to lay a curse on your opponent that will take away 25% of your opponent's health at the end of every turn. Now this is obviously amazing for this Pokemon and kind of essential why we need to have an even HP number, because at full health, when you go for Curse, you will be then at the 50% mark in your HP, which will then activate the Citrus Berry to recover 25% of that health. So basically, you are using one of the best quote-unquote status moves in the game for really no sacrifice at all because of the Citrus Berry. And once you have laid a curse on your opponent at the end of the turn, they'll lose 25% of their health, and then you're free to just go for Protect to then obviously take away 25% of their health yet again, basically halving their HP for literally no cost almost. And obviously, when you go for Protect, this is also an easy way to help you gain your Citrus Berry back, as the Harvest ability does not activate 100% of the time, so Protect is very essential for this. And since we are running max special defense on the set, Will-O-Wisp is going to be another essential move in the third move slot to allow Trevenant to cripple physical attackers by laying a burn on them. This will also allow you to stall out for even more damage if you have already laid a curse on your opponent, as you can then protect for curse damage and burn damage to make them take a ton of residual damage at the end of every turn. And for the main attacking move on this set, you could either go with Horn Leech as your main grass type stab, which is a pretty good power move that will obviously leech some health back to allow you to keep your health up throughout battle, or Shadow Claw, which is going to be its main Ghost type stab move, which is also a very good option as Ghost types are now only resisted by Normal type and Dark type Pokemon. So overall, this set has some amazing coverage. You are pretty much guaranteed to take away 50% of your opponent's health at the expense of only 25% of yours because of the Citrus Berry, and it's just such an awesome set for this Pokemon to run, and honestly, one of my favorite sets just in general in terms of Pokemon. Up next, I have a really great subseeding set for Trevenant to run. So we're going to start this set off by giving it a Careful Nature to increase its special defense and lower its special attack. And for the ability, we're going to be using Harvest again. As for the EVs, we're going to put 216 into its HP, 252 into its special defense to max that out, and then 40 EVs into its speed to again give it enough speed to outspeed Pokemon of at least base 60 speed or lower that have no speed investment. And if you're wondering why this is slightly different than the previous set, it's because we don't really have to care about an odd or even HP number on this set. But as for the item, again, we are going to be going with a Citrus Berry. But for the moves, we are going to be running the famous Substitute Leech Seed combination, which will not only protect us from attacks through our substitutes, but allow us to continuously regain health from our opponent, provided they are not a grass type, as you cannot Leech Seed grass types. But with that, we are going to be running either one attacking move on this set, at least one main attacking move on this set, in the form of either Horn Leech or Shadow Claw, just like before. But in my opinion, running Shadow Claw is generally superior on a subseeding set, as the Pokemon that are typically counters to subseeding sets, being other grass types, will take not very effective damage from your Horn Leech. However, it is also important to keep in mind that because of you Leech Seeding your opponent and having the Citrus Berry on this set, you are gaining an immense amount of recovery at the end of every turn if you are able to safely set up a substitute against your opponent. But for the last move on this set, we can either go with World of Warcraft, Will-O-Wisp, Protect, or Rock Slide. Will-O-Wisp, obviously, again, for the same reasons as before, as you will be able to burn your opponent to potentially cripple physical attackers, which is actually even more so amazing for this set, as it will make your substitutes very difficult to break from both the physical and special side after you've gotten off a burn. However, Protect can also be used for some maximum recovery to potentially allow you to stall out even more turns of Leech Seed recovery and lowering your opponent's health in the meantime, while also gaining another opportunity to potentially harvest a Citrus Berry. But if you want some really great coverage on this set, going with Rock Slide is a fantastic way to cover a lot of Trevenant's weaknesses, as Rock Slide hits many Pokemon that would want to come in and hit Trevenant for super effective damage of their own, such as the fire and flying types that would typically threaten a Pokemon like Trevenant out. So that is a fantastic coverage move to use on the set if you don't really want to run Will-O-Wisp or Protect in the last move slot. But overall, this set is just a fantastic way to run a subseeding Trevenant, and you have some really great coverage, as well as also potentially being able to cripple attackers through the use of Will-O-Wisp. Up next, I have a bulky attacking set for Trevenant to run. So we're going to start this one off by giving it an Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack, and for the ability, we're either going to be going with Natural Cure or Harvest, more or less depending upon the item you want to run on the set. For the EVs though, we're going to put 216 into its HP, 252 into its physical attack, and then the remainder 40 EVs into its speed. And for the item, we could either go with a Life Orb to increase your damage but having a 10% recoil, a Choice Band to increase your physical attack by 1 stage while locking into a move, or a Lumberry to heal any statuses you may receive. Now, it is important to note that if you do run Natural Cure, you are very easily able to do even more damage with the set, as this does allow you to use the Life Orb or Choice Band, but if you do go with Harvest, I would definitely recommend Lumberry, as it does give you a much easier time with dealing with statuses that you may receive. However, that isn't really too big of a problem in general for this set, but it does make it a lot easier to use. So Natural Cure, though, definitely allows you to do some more damage, which is important to keep in mind when making this set for your Trevenant. But for the moves, we are going to be first going with Wood Hammer to be your main physical grass type move for this set, and then we're also going to be running our main stab Ghost type move in the form of Shadow Claw. But for coverage on the set, we are going to be running either Rock Slide or Earthquake, both of which give Trevenant some really great super effective type coverage against a variety of types that Trevenant may be up against, and it's really dependent upon what other opponents you really expect Trevenant to be running into in selecting this move, as Rock Slide typically does do very well on a grass type Pokemon, as it does allow you to hit a lot of types that grass type Pokemon are weak to for super effective damage, but Earthquake also could give you some really great coverage. And for the last move on this set, we are going to be running Rest to allow Trevenant to heal its HP all the way up, and also get rid of any statuses it may have received, because you are going to be putting Trevenant to sleep in the process. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that if you are using Natural Cure, as soon as you go for Rest, you can just easily switch Trevenant out and heal that rest status or that sleep status right away. And this is even possible to do on a choice band set, as if you do give Trevenant that one turn to be able to come in safely and go for Rest, you can keep its use throughout the entirety of the battle through the use of this one move, because after you switch out, you can then continuously attack with your boosted attack with the choice band for the rest of the battle, and so you need to rest again. But if you do use the Lumberry, obviously you will get that immediate heal in your status as soon as you go for the rest, as well as also fending off any statuses that are directed at you along the way. So overall, this is just a really great way to use a bulky, in my opinion, Trevenant that is very self-sustaining and capable of doing a ton of damage to your opponent's team. Up next, I have a Trick Room set for Trevenant to run. So we're going to start this set off by going with a Brave Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its speed. And for the ability, all three of them actually work for this set. But for the EVs, we're going to max its HP with 252 EVs into that stat, and also max its physical attack with 252 EVs into that stat, and put the remainder 4 EVs into its defense. It is also important to note that since we are running a Trick Room set, we want to have our IVs as low as possible, so it is recommended to have 0 speed IVs on this Trevenant. But for the item, we could either go with a Life Orb, a Lumberry, or a Citrus Berry, which is largely dependent upon the ability that you go with on this set. Obviously, a Life Orb is obviously the recommended way to do more damage with Trevenant, but if you do want to run Harvest in combination with your Lumberry, you can obviously do that very easily, or run Harvest in combination with the Citrus Berry to allow Trevenant to keep up its health as it is attempting a Trick Room sweep. But for the moves on the set, the first one we're obviously going to be going with is going to be Trick Room to allow Trevenant to twist the dimensions, making the slower Pokemon on the battlefield actually the faster ones, which is really great for this Pokemon since it typically is not that fast of a Pokemon. But for our main moves, again, we are going to be running Wood Hammer and Shadow Claw on the set to allow it to have some very powerful stab. It is also important to note that Wood Hammer working in combination with a Citrus Berry is a very fantastic combination, as you will rarely ever have to worry about the recoil you're taking from Wood Hammer, which is something really cool, as you can pretty much use this move without any drawbacks. But for the last move on this set, we are going to either run Rock Slide for some really great type coverage, or Destiny Bond in the last move slot to potentially take down an opponent with us if we are at a low range of health. And this can be very tricky on this Pokemon, as not a lot of people really expect Destiny Bond a lot of the time, but I guess it would be more common on a Trick Room set, but it's definitely a very good way to allow you to secure another KO on your opponent's side of the field to make your job of winning the battle that much easier. And I personally think this is a fantastic sweeping set for this Pokemon, and one that particularly works well under the effects of Trick Room because of how slow it is normally, especially with the Brave Nature and 0 speed IVs. And lastly, I have a very cool way to run a boosting set on Trevenant. So we're going to start this one off by either giving it an Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack and lower its special attack, or a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack. And for the ability, we're going to be going with Harvest. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its HP to give Trevenant an HP number divisible by 4, which is something to keep in mind for later. We're also going to put 252 EVs into its physical attack to max that out, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max that out as well. And it is also important to note that at level 50, you're going to want to swap 4 of those HP EVs out and put them into your defense to make sure that you still have an HP number divisible by 4, because that is going to be working in combination with your item on this set, which is the Slack Berry, which will be increasing Trevenant's speed by 1 stage every time it hits below at least 25% of its health. And I say every time because once you are in that range, you actually have the potential to harvest your Slack Berry to then boost your speed a second time or a third time, depending on how many times you are actually able to harvest the Slack Berry, which will make Trevenant increasingly fast and increasingly more of a threat against your opponent's team. But to work in combination with the Slackberry and help you get into that range a lot easier, the first move we're going to be using on this set is going to be Substitute, to allow Trevenant to get behind a protective barrier to shield it from attacks and statuses, and also lower its health by 25% of your health. And once you've used 3 substitutes, you will be in the range where your Slackberry will activate. This will obviously be in account regardless of whether or not entry hazards are on the field or not, which is something cool for this set in particular, especially if you do use it with like Rapid Spin or Defog support, as the activating of the Slackberry will not be hindered at all by whatever is going on the field. But for your main boosting move of this set, in combination with the Slackberry obviously, is going to be Power Up Bunch or Hone Claws to boost your physical attack. Hone Claws also has that increase into your accuracy, but that's not really necessary at all for this set, as you're not using a move that is inaccurate at all. But both of these do increase your physical attack by 1 stage, and they both have their pros and cons. Power Up Punch obviously is also an attacking move that can do damage to your opponent, but Hone Claws, not being an attacking move, can be taunted, but it also isn't hindered against Ghost-type Pokemon, because Power Up Punch obviously cannot hit Ghost types, whereas Hone Claws is not affected by whatever type of Pokemon your opponent is. So really, both of them have their advantages and disadvantages to running, and it's really whichever one you think is going to be most appropriate for your use of the set. But for your main attacking moves on the set, you are going to be running Horn Leech and Shadow Claw to be your main grass and ghost type stab for the set, to do some really solid damage to pretty much anything you're going to be running into. And you might be wondering, Rykard, we're using Horn Leech, so that's going to take us out of our Slackberry range. Well, if your Slackberry has already activated, you probably will already be faster than your opponent, so you can just sub down again to get into that range, so there's really no harm done at all, which is really cool for this set. And once you have sufficiently boosted your speed and physical attack, Trevenant will become just a monster of a Pokemon to deal with, and a huge threat that typically is very slow, but will now be extremely fast and powerful through the use of Power Up Punch or Hone Claws and your Slackberry. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video. So I wanted to thank you all for watching my exhibition on Trevenant. Feel free to follow me on twitch.tv, where I will be live streaming various Pokemon related things, as well as follow me on Twitter. Also, please bookmark the database in the description that will have all of these movesets for Trevenant, as well as all the others in the analysis series. And also feel free to join the chat at zat.com/pokegrounds. Also, my Master of Them All tournament number 2, the Mixed Region Monotype tournament, is coming up actually tomorrow, since it is currently 1 a.m. as I am narrating this, but I would consider it 2 days from now just because I'm going to go to bed, and I consider this to still be Thursday. But anyway, that is coming up very shortly, so I hope you all sign up. I will put the link for the sign up in the description, as well as allow you to click the screen right now to go to the video where I explain everything, and also you can sign up there as well if you choose to. Keep in mind that this is taking place at noon on Eastern Standard Time, so it is important to check your clock to make sure you are at the right time zone for that. And also keep in mind that this will also be live streamed on my Twitch channel, and will take place on the Pokemon Showdown Simulator, which now is actually working a little bit better, even though it was attacked earlier this week. Hopefully it'll be up in time for my tournament. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video, so thank you all for watching, and as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.